Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for taking your Saturday afternoon out and coming to listen to us talk. We're going to talk today a little bit about our journey from being a travel tech company to a fintech company and how we use data to do it at Hopper. I'm Anwesha Bhattacharjee. I'm the business unit leader for Price Freeze, and I will let my wonderful friend introduce herself.
Bonjour, bon après-midi. Comme vous pouvez l'entendre, je parle aussi français. Notre présentation va se faire en anglais, mais à la fin, ça va me faire plaisir de répondre à vos questions en français et aussi de traduire vos questions pour Anwesha si besoin est, si c'est elle qui peut répondre. Je suis directrice du développement logiciel chez Hopper. Ça fait 3 ans et demi que je travaille chez Hopper. Puis, savez-vous, croyez-le ou non, c'est toujours la slide que je trouve le plus difficile à faire. J'ai toujours le mauvais rêve que je vais venir pour parler dans le micro, ça ne fonctionnera pas, fait que ouf, on est parti. So, Anwesha and I will talk to you about Traveltech,
Yes.
to Fintech, and
all right.
This is all yours.
Let's go on this ride. Oh, wait. Where am I pointing? There we go. So, for those of you who may or may not know everything about Hopper, we are a travel company. We've been around since 2015. We actually launched in 2015. First is a consumer mobile application, so that's our primary line of business. We distribute travel through the app. And now we also have an alternative line of business, which is our Hopper Cloud, our B2B2C line of business. We're headquartered right here in Montreal. There's a lot of travel companies in the world. What makes us special is that we've collected billions and trillions of historical pricing data, and we got very good at price prediction. That's what made us special. And so we launched with our price prediction, then we realized we had something that no one else had. We leveraged that to build our fintech suite of products, which disrupted the travel market and facilitated some incredible growth for the company. That's what's going on. There we go. Nope, why does it keep doing that? There. Okay, perfect. So, in short, Hopper helps customers travel better, smarter, by combining a world-class travel agency with our fintech suite of products. And today, we're a $6 billion in sales. We've grown tremendously. If you've used Hopper in the past, or you knew us from back when we were a young fledgling company, we were primarily a flights business. Today, hotels is actually more than our flights business. It's more than half the company, almost half the company. We have a car rental business, and we just entered the homes and short-term rentals business with our homes line. What makes us special, and I said this before, we disrupted the market with our fintech suite of products. Fintech in travel is a very unique thing. Basically, it's a group of products that allows our customers peace of mind when they're shopping or booking travel. And it offers them protection, flexibility, facilitates payment, all while Hopper underwrites the risk for these products. Examples, well, price prediction, price freeze, cancel for any reason, disruption protection. You book the travel, we take on the cost of protecting you. And this is actually really great for our customers, because if you've booked a trip anytime in the past, you know you're not just touching one supplier. You've got airlines, hotels, maybe vacation, like the package tours or what have you. And if something goes wrong, you're dealing with customer support from multiple different companies with multiple different policies. And we just provided a one-stop shop. Buy everything on Hopper and we'll take care of everything for you. This was great for our customers because they didn't have to worry about things, gave them peace of mind, and we actually changed consumer behavior. We see about 10 to 15% additional spend on fintech ancillaries on our app today. More than half of our customers attach to more than one fintech product. And they're 2.5 times to 4 times more likely to come back and buy another fintech product on their next travel. But in 2020, Anyone remember that year? Yeah. Not really the year to travel. We just started out with our hotels business line. Anne and I worked on hotel ancillaries. We started 3 months before the pandemic. And then April 2020, and we're like, overnight, that's how much we were making. It wasn't a lot, but now we're literally zero. And we were sitting there thinking, how do we make money? And how do we, it's a crazy time. People don't want to travel. What do customers need, and how can we make money? And then we got together with our team, and we made this happen. We launched a product line, Price Freeze, on hotels. It was $0 in revenue in May 2020. We exited the year, we were 33% of the hotels business, and Hopper was back on the map and growing faster than ever. How do we do it?
Oh, it started with the Price Freeze product. So what is Price Freeze? What is it all about? Context, Anwesha told you Hopper is a mobile travel marketplace. You can buy flights, you can buy hotels, you can buy cars. Price Freeze on hotels is all about hotels. Imagine you and your friends are planning a trip for Labor Day weekend in September. You want to go to Quebec City. So you open up the Hopper app, you enter Quebec City, you enter the dates, and then it gives you a list of hotels. Pretty simple. First thing you see is Chateau Frontenac, $210 a night. That is a good price for Chateau Frontenac. Believe me, I've been in this for many years, but it does happen. So you're super excited, but you're traveling with a group of friends. So you don't want to book it right away, it's not refundable. You want to talk to your friends first. But you're afraid the price is going to go up, and you're right. There's a lot of volatility, this is my French, volatility in hotel prices. They can change multiple times a week, they can even change multiple times a day, especially if you're towards the end of the week. So what can you do? You don't want to buy it right now, well, just freeze the price. What does this mean? Pay a certain amount of money, pay $20 or $35, and the price you see today is the price you will pay when you decide to purchase, even if the price went up. So this is our idea. And why do we say it's fintech? Oh, hello. Super synchronized. It is fintech because the hotelier gets the same price that they advertise when you buy. So if you froze at $210 and you exercise your price freeze when the hotel is at $250 or $300, the hotel is still going to get $300. Hopper is assuming the financial risk. It's like you're buying an option. You purchase an option on the price you see today so that you can exercise it at a later time. It's something completely novel. It does not exist. Well, we're starting to see it in other travel agencies now, but it did not exist at the time, and we don't even know if customers want to buy this. It's actually a pretty grand project, but it's like, how do you do this with a team of 7? We're in the middle of the pandemic. We don't have like 100 engineers to work on this. We're only 7. We kind of know at Hopper that the burn rate for this type of team is $100K per month. We don't want to be burning $100K per month to even validate if this idea is good. So there's a few things inherent to Hopper culture and Hopper ways of working, like single-threaded ownership, customer obsession, data-driven product development, and bias for action that helped us make Price Freeze a success. Anwesha and I will be talking about each and every one of these, diving deep into these to explain step by step how it helped us in our journey. Next. Single-threaded ownership, also known as STO. I will be using the word STO for single-threaded owner and single-threaded ownership. Most companies have some sort of matrix organization. You might be familiar with it. You have functional groups like product and engineering, software development that have competencies and ways of working, rules, and guidelines. You have other groups like sales and marketing that kind of own the profit and loss. They own the customer. And if you want to bring a project from 0 to 1, you have to go through all of these layers with a high level of collaboration, high level of coordination. You have to do quarterly strategic planning. You spend a lot of time in meetings instead of putting something in front of the customer. Hopper was in this situation back in 2019, where not a lot was getting done. People were spending a lot of time in meetings. We weren't putting that many things in front of the customer, and even when we were putting things in front of the customer, they didn't have fit. So we kind of were wasting time, and people were getting discouraged. They were actually leaving. So we decided to go with something new that would enable us to move as quickly as we were moving back when we were still a startup. And we tried out single-threaded ownership. What is single-threaded ownership? It's when you have one and only one person that owns a single line of business or a single product. That person is responsible for just one thing, that product or that line of business. That person also owns one team. And that team is comprised of multiple people, everyone that you need to make your product or your business line profitable. That single-threaded owner also owns profit and loss. It's actually like a little startup inside of an incubator. So this is how Hopper is structured. We have multiple verticals. Each vertical has their single-threaded owner. That owner can be from an engineering background, can be from a data science background, like Anwesha, can be from a product management background or a business background. You will find all these types of leaders. They own the profit and loss. It's like a small company. Your goal, make the customer happy and grow your revenue. If it doesn't happen, switch projects. You need to do something else. The team are empowered. They can do whatever it takes to make it happen. There are no fixed rules. One rule that we tend to follow is the size of the team. Don't make it too big if you want to be agile about it. Keep it the size of your role intent. No bigger than that, approximately 12 people, and it works. Proof is in the pudding. This little Einstein bunny that you see here, this is when we started implementing STO. Hopper before STO, a few projects in green, not a lot. Then the size of the company didn't change much in between. It changed after because we were growing. 2017, 5 projects. The one in red did not find market. They were fully baked and launched. Didn't bring revenue because too much time was spent in alignment. Comes STO, 2019. 2020, we're in the middle of the pandemic, and all these green projects were successful. Price freeze is right there. So really, proof is in the pudding. The next slide, this is actually what happened to our revenue. We grew, whoops.
Sorry.
20x. You see, after the little Einstein bunny, how it starts growing, then, okay, you have that dip. Guess what it is? Pandemic. But even after the pandemic, with these fast-moving teams that are working side by side, it just ignited growth. So we double our revenue, and then we 5x them.
So, customer obsession. That's our second value that we started out with. This is something that is so ingrained in Hopper, right? It's not customer focus. It's something much beyond that. Customer obsession is when your feelings and opinions as a product person, as an engineering person, does not matter. What matters is what customers tell you. So we work backwards from the customer's pain points, what they need, what they want, and that is all that matters. We build our business cases, we build our hypotheses based on what customers are telling us. And one of the things that's so critical to being customer obsessed as a group is you stop managing to proxies. There are no separate goals for engineering and product. No. The entire team, whether it's me, the product manager, and the engineering manager, my 5 developers, the data scientists, whoever working on price freeze, we all care about revenues, profits, and product market fit. Nothing else matters. If we can't find it, move on to something else. So customer obsession is a very core part of Hopper culture that actually enabled us to do what we did. And if you combine STO with customer obsession, you get a team that has full autonomy to implement, to create a vision, to implement that vision, take full ownership of end to end, everything. Talking to customers, ideating, shipping something, feedback loop, customer service, finance, we own all of it as a team. That's non-negotiable. So with full ownership, we know if it succeeds, it's all of us. If it fails, it's all of us. There's no one else involved. And that means we are our own navigators to create impact for the customer. The third pillar that already was there at Hopper when we started was data-driven product design. We're obsessive about data at Hopper. And for us, basically if you're obsessing about the customer, you cannot not be obsessing about data, right? Fundamentally. So we actually cared about data a lot. What this entailed was actually 3 different things. The first is when customers tell us something, it has to be more than qualitative surveys. We have to have a way of building out hypotheses to test things, be able to collect that data and analyze them very, very fast, and then be able to build it into our roadmap and pivot quickly. And this has happened many times, especially in those 6 months, and can speak to this, where we've literally learned something in 2 weeks, and I've said, the rest of the quarter, everything we have planned, throw it out, because I just found something new and we got to change tracks. And that only happens if you have data-driven product design. And that means something. Being data-driven isn't just, I'm going to look for the data. It's about having an organization that supports fast, easy access to data. So again, 3 things, and like I say, 3 is my lucky number. So everything's in 3s. 3 things. 1, everyone at your company knows where to find the data. There's no questions asked. You know where the warehouse is, you know where the data lives, and in what format. 2, it's easy to use. Every person in your company can self-serve from that data, whether they're a product person, a customer service delivery person, an engineer, it doesn't matter. They can pull that data, they can wrangle it quickly, and they can build inferences from that data fast. 3, once you have that data, it takes very little time to share it with your team, inspire them, and get buy-in. That's also a critical component of being data-driven, is that as you move forward as a product leader or any leader, you take the team with you and they're seeing the same things that you are, and they understand why.
To have data-driven product development, you kind of need the data infrastructure. That really helped us to achieve price freeze in like this really extreme timeline. We had this infrastructure already existing. So I'm going to walk you through my very ugly tech slide. I like it. Like this is my type of diagram. I'm not very good at presentations in general. So data democratization ready. This word is very representative, but it's very hard to say for me. Before we started any development, we had a good A/B testing infrastructure, which is very critical if you want to be data-driven. We had our own in-house A/B testing framework. If you don't have it in your company, there's a lot of cloud services out there that will enable you to have this. Another key component in this infrastructure is user analytics that is hooked up to the A/B testing framework. So the user analytics was in-house when we started developing this and is still in-house. It's something we built. What was key to our success is to have client libraries for each and every component in your stack. Hopper is a mobile app, so we have a client library for iOS Swift. We have a client library for Android. Our backend is all microservice in Scala, so we have a client library built in to the microservice framework. So it takes basically just a few lines of code to deploy your new microservice, and it's A/B test ready and user data analytics ready. And all of this is hooked up in such a way that it's self-serve for all Hopper employees. PMs can access it, data analysts, software engineer. You don't need to be a data analyst to do an SQL query. Anybody can do it and then use this data. This data is also accessible for our data models, for our learning models that can then be fed back into the app, like our price prediction algorithm. How does this flow? From each client application, as soon as the user will click a button, view a screen, whatever, it generates an event. Okay, it's a little bit buffered, but it generates an event. Really, REST API goes to the backend. Everything's collected, augmented a little bit with user context, then sent out to a PubSub queue. From that PubSub queue, it is collected again, and then it's split into two very important services. Events and attributes are sent to Amplitude, which is a tool that is used by product manager for almost real-time analysis. Then it's also sent to an incremental archive that is sent to a data warehouse. We use BigQuery. That enables us to have historical data that can be queried by anybody assuming the role of a data analyst or anybody wanting to look at the data. That same data can be used to build models that will then feed our applications. Now that you know what we had in place, the culture, the infrastructure, how did we start to build price freeze? Everybody's heard about building the MVP, the minimal viable product. We hear that all the time. One thing I've learned, and Anwesha actually says she learned it from me, so we have to admit we learned it together, is that an MVP can always be smaller if you start diving into it. And we discovered something so small that we actually called it extreme MVP. How do we go about identifying what the extreme MVP is? Well, first thing, you need to understand the big picture first. Don't start by defining what your MVP is if you don't define what you think is the end product. It's not going to be a waste of time, although whatever you develop will never look like what you thought was the end product, but have the big picture in mind. Then start describing it. How do you describe that? You hear about MVP a lot, but how do you actually define it? One good way, for me, from my experience, basic use cases. Identify what your use cases are. How will the user, how will the different actors interact with your system? In the case of price freeze, you will offer price freeze to them. You will set a price for price freeze. The user will purchase price freeze. The user will exercise price freeze. You will notify the user when their price freeze is about to expire, etc., etc. So do these diagrams. Then you can start defining what an MVP might look like. Say, expiry might not be important in the first iteration. So you can always bar that one right away. You're going to have a small step. Use that small step and start describing step-by-step interaction with the user. User logs into the app, sees the hotel, present the price freeze, determine the price by using this and this. That's all product side engineering together. Then what you need to do, sequence diagrams. Sequence diagram with all the external systems and all the important internal systems. What's an important internal system? It's a system that you need to modify or you need to create in order to fulfill that use case. Keep it simple. This is not complicated. You can do it on a whiteboard. We use Plan2ML to do it. You can use something like Raby, but it's super important. Why is it important? Because it's where you identify the complexity. It's where you can start creating your dialogue with the PM, saying, yeah, I can implement this, but here's all the systems I need to modify, and your architecture starts to emanate from this. And it really helps to tear your MVP down to smaller size because the PM now knows what is complex and what is easy to do. Here's what happened when we started tearing it down. This is the big picture. Once I started doing all this diagram, I ended up with kind of this architecture on the left. Anwesha started looking at it and says, well, I don't think we need to reminders right now. I don't think we need flexibility right now. I don't think we need expiry right now. And then we looked at our core use cases, and we did our first iteration. And what was our extreme MVP? Remember the first question we wanted to ask? Will customers even buy this? No other company has this. How did we figure that out? In one sprint, we were able to determine that 1 out of every 10 customers was willing to purchase price freeze. How did we do this? On the hotel cover view, we put up, you're not ready to purchase yet? Freeze the price. Swipe to freeze. And then we had a sad bunny saying, oh, server error. Okay, there was nothing in the back end. We didn't implement anything, it was just a sprint. But we counted the clicks. It's much better than any survey. So this is our extreme MVP. Before working on this, I would have never dreamt of such an MVP, but it worked. And now I do it all the time. Each time I tackle a new project, me too. First sprint, something to read what the customer wants. Okay, we didn't stop there. We now know that 1 out of every 10 customers wants to buy this or willing to look into this. Let's be great. That is a good enough number. If the number would have been bad, we would have stopped right there. One sprint. Oh, the video's not working?
The video's not working. That's okay.
Okay, I'll walk you through that. This was the second iteration.
Yeah, go for it.
Technical problem. Okay, so second iteration, enable the customer to actually buy the price freeze. So they're not going to make a lot of money. It's almost rare. It's a little bit more complex to integrate it into a mobile app because you need to release it to the App Store, et cetera, et cetera. You can't iterate as fast, even though at Hopper we release every 2 weeks a new app. So what we did, we actually did a web-based interaction and hooked it up with like a Webflow UI. This was actually, the UI was actually done by our data scientists in like a few days. It was a bit complicated to add it to our shopping cart that we had in the app. So we hooked it up to an external system called Stripe. When a user would purchase a price freeze, it would go into Stripe, then call us back. We would put it into a storage. And then we, the engineers and the product manager, would go manually through that and confirm the purchase to the customers by email, well, manually through MailChimp, but still. And the user could exercise their price freeze, not through the app. They would communicate with customer support. That gave us a good indication on, you can start experimenting with price. How much are they willing to pay for this? How much will exercise the price freeze? That's the next question, because it's going to impact how much provisions you need to make. Helping us to answer the question, can we make money with this? Oh, it doesn't want to.
It doesn't want to move. That's okay. We got it.
Okay, so like Anne said, first version was just this very scrappy purchase. In any other traditional scenario, you would have said, okay, we did a fake door test, we had the 1 out of 10 people, swipe to pay, they get the bunny, okay. Anne came back to me and she said, Anwesha, at minimum, if you want to build the whole thing without bells and whistles, it's going to be 12 to 16 weeks. And I looked at her and said, okay, no. That's too long. We could be out of business by then. I don't know. It's the middle of the pandemic. So this whole manual fulfillment. Basically what we did, like she said, we would get it in a database, and then the 7 of us in the team, plus our 3 customer service leaders, we were sitting there monitoring the price freeze purchases. 3 times a day, one of us would go in, process all the orders, send a MailChimp. Your order is confirmed. If you want to use this to book your hotel stay, reach out back to this email ID. And then for 8 weeks, I was in the stack talking to customers, asking them, okay, you're ready to book now? Cool, let me find a quote, let me see how much this costs, let me send you the invoice. If you want to buy, this is how much it's going to cost you. And then they would pay out the invoice, and then I would go and use a customer service person to go book it on whatever portal it needed to be booked on. It was a little bit crazy. So, 2 things. One, while I was doing all of this, and Anne and everyone else on the team was helping me out with it, we said, don't build the purchase flow. Because you got a scrappy system in place. I know how many people are buying it. I know there are 3 screens before you can actually pay. So if I remove the 3 screens and make it 1 screen, I'm going to increase conversion. That's a no-brainer. I know how much that's going to be. Don't bother. Build out the fulfillment flow, because I can't do this more than 8 weeks at a stretch. So we literally did not have a good purchase flow in the app, but we started building a fulfillment flow because that's more important to our customers. Customer obsessed. And second, I learned a lot in the stack. I was sitting there quoting them, like booking values from the app, and then customers are telling me, actually, I froze the 1 king room, but it would be really nice if I could get the 2 queen instead. Oh, you need upgrades and downgrades. Good to know. Or I would have liked the choice to freeze a room, or I would really like the flexibility to switch to different dates. And right off the bat, my entire roadmap changed. I could build out purchase whenever, but when I did it, I would have the right features in place to build it because I was actually talking to customers. I was hearing them, I was listening to them get angry or frustrated or telling me what they wish they had, and I was building my own wish list in the process, which was actually invaluable. So that brings us to value number 4. We started with STO, customer obsession, data-driven. We talked about how data-driven looks like in real life. The 4th thing is bias for action. This is also ingrained in Hopper's culture. You see a problem? Go fix it. I don't care. Regardless of whether it's your product, it's your P&L, it's your job, you're not stepping on anyone's toes. If no one else is fixing it, go fix it. That's bias for action. And that's what we did. We said, okay, here's the time to test something new. Customers want flexibility. We'll start with a product that gives customers 120 days to decide whether they want to book or not. It's not 120 days anymore, but at the time that was relevant. And we ran a series of A/B tests constantly to figure out, okay, look, I don't know. Like my team would ask me in groomings and plannings, Anwesha, why aren't we doing so-and-so? And I'd be like, you know what? I don't know, let's test it. Takes 5 days to stand up a test. It's not a big deal, let's do it. What this allowed us to do with our high bias for action and our very data-driven culture is that we had a clear view of, here are the inputs to my product black box, and here are the outcomes in terms of metrics. There are some levers I can pull, which will change the outcomes. For example, if I bring more people into the price freeze funnel, I will see higher conversion. That's a very no-brainer one. But basically you could find your input levers, and we could test them one at a time to figure out how much should I move each to get maximum impact. Product market fit, best results, best profit, best revenue. And it was really, really fast, right? So I'll give you an example. Right off the bat, the first copy that launched was not ready to book yet, you can't see it. It's right there. But it's like, not ready to book yet, freeze the price. And then we're like, you know, it's just 1 out of 10 customers, like, what could we do that might actually increase our sales by, you know, $1 in revenue per transaction? Hypothesis, show the price on the freeze call to action. Takes us like 5 days plus an app release to get that out of the door. We're like, okay, forecast was $1 RPT. In real life, that turns out to be like 85 cents or almost $1. It's a go, let's do it. And then we like little things like that. They sound like optimizations, but they're not. They actually had pretty significant impact on our top line and bottom line at the time.
Lessons learned from this journey from an engineering manager that I was back then. So, in the middle, use Agile, but just enough. Don't make Agile a process. Really stay Agile. Take what you need. Remember I was saying STO was all about do what it takes to make it happen? So we adapted our way of working to our specific product. One thing using Agile that we identified, which was super important to us and that I still use today, and I think Anwesha uses it in her team too, that I want to share with you, was that we've identified 3 levels of epics. Epics can be experiments, epics can be features, or they can be improvements. Why are these 3 types important? It's all about the level of engineering that you're going to apply to each and every one of them. You don't need to put as many unit tests on something that is an experiment. You might roll it out, discover that there's no market fit in 2 days, and just tear the code out. Manual testing is good enough. If you've attended the excellent talk about site reliability today, you really don't need site reliability for an experiment. But when you move an experiment to 100% and you realize that it's starting to bring revenue to your company, you need to start worrying about site reliability. You need to ask yourself the question, if this goes down, how is it impacting my customer? How often can this go down? What does it mean to have a deterioration of service? If it's just an experiment, the only thing you need is a kill switch. Something's going wrong, just turn it off and you can figure it out the next day. It seems very basic, but a lot of places where I've worked at don't have this distinction. And this actually enables you to go fast, spending your time in the right area. Improvements, you have features out there, they're working, they're bringing in revenue, but they're not reliable. Technical debt, you need to tackle it if it's bringing revenue, if it makes sense to build a little bit more for customers to be happier. About the team, refinement session, involve the team super early in the roadmap review. Use story pointing as a mechanism. I hate burn-down charts. I don't really rely on those, but I love story pointing. Why is story pointing so important? To get a good feeling if your team understands the complexity. If somebody is voting an 8 point and somebody else is voting a 2, it's because it's not clear. There's too much ambiguity. You won't be able to build this. And if you don't do story points, it's harder to figure that out. People are just going to accept it. If people are pointing them, they're buying in. They have ownership on what they're doing. You can't say, oh, well, this is too much work in this. Come on, you all agree to this. It's super important. If you can't point it, you probably need a spike. Don't be afraid of spikes. Spikes are there to clarify. Disambiguate something and be clear on the definition of done of a spike. Definition of done of a spike is not to build the thing. It's to be able to list all the tasks that are necessary to build this thing, and then you start tackling the tasks in the next sprint. Oh, API-driven, contract-driven. If you have some front ends, some back ends, some data model layer, start by defining the contract. The first thing you do in your sprint, sit everybody down together, or the people, the stakeholders, define your API. Second thing you do, write the server-side stub for that API that just returns non data, then everybody can work in parallel. Seems pretty basic, not done everywhere, works extremely well. That's what I learned, and I'm sharing it with you.
So, in addition to the ways of working that worked really, really well, we learned a few other things along the way. One, we had weekly data reviews. By the way, I still do that with my entire dev team. And when I say data, I mean, here's what you shipped, this is how you moved the needle, this is how you changed RPT, conversion, that piece of work, that piece of code that you put in, here's how it changed the course, and here's the impact on Hopper's business. That really inspires our engineers, and I actually, till date, have engineers who'll be like, Anwesha, we made $20,000 less yesterday. What went wrong? And I get that in my daily stand-up from my devs. It's phenomenal, and that's the culture we built. Second, involving the team. This is something Anne talked about too. It's really important, not just in road mapping, but also brainstorming with them. This is your product too. It can't just be my ideas. It can't just be Anne's ideas. We're not the only ones who have good ideas. Everybody has great ideas. You're thinking about the product every day. Tell us your ideas. It's then my job to figure out how to stack rank them and bake it into the roadmap. Corollary to that, the roadmap. Up to today, I have never taken a roadmap to senior management without my team having seen it first. No one gets to see my roadmap before my team and my EM says, that's a risk, take that out, you're overcommitting for this quarter. I leave a buffer sprint every quarter. And I've taken that to the CEO of the company and said, you can't change my mind on this. I need a buffer sprint every quarter. So we do that. And finally, we problem solve. We get creative, we get hacky, and we figure out how to do this. And by the way, in the middle of a pandemic, we were doing all of this virtually. We made our first $1,000, and then Anne did a dance.
The happy dance.
Happy dance on camera, because the team was really motivated. It made a difference. And I keep saying product team. The story was mostly about product team. It does take a village, though. Customer service, they were staying up nights to help us make this happen. Finance, pulling numbers, quarterly numbers from like an Excel sheet going, Anwesha, when is this gonna get automated? I'm like, not yet, it doesn't have product market fit, hang in there. And they're like, okay, we'll do this. I'll ask you questions if I have any. Data scientists, everyone was just doing their little bit because that's who we are. That's how we make it happen. But the one thing that the two of us had, I think, and this is special, she's my partner in crime. She'll always be my partner in crime. We had 4 things going for us, and our relationship as PM and EM was sort of built on 4 pillars. Lots of trust, a lot of candor. We were comfortable being vulnerable with each other, and we were very comfortable negotiating with each other. And you know what it did? It made this relationship a very egoless one. So we could just sit there and brainstorm and have creative disagreements and not feel like it was personal, never have the feeling that she's trampling on my ideas. That never happened. It's a partnership. We're in this together. We had a push and pull. We negotiated. We recognized what we knew, what we didn't know, what our strengths was mutually and in the teams, and we did what was best for the customer.
And we did this with the team.
And we did this in front of the team.
Yeah, and the team started doing it also, which created a very efficient, creative, high-performing team because of this trust, because people were not afraid to bring their ideas.
Something Anne does very well, by the way, she'll just like sit on the call and be like, okay, so I disagree with Anwesha on this, and I think this is, we should try something else. Does anyone else have thoughts or opinions? And then you've got, the typical dev crowd. They're just going, we're all on mute. We're not going to do anything. And she just lets the uncomfortable silence sit there. 1 minute, 2 minutes. And she goes, come on. Would you want to build a product you don't believe in? And then the unmutes start happening and the opinions start flowing in. And she does that really well. And now I think we're training our EMs to do that well as well. So this is a culture that has persisted.
I hope so.
I think you're out of time, so.
I know, so really quick, what happened next? We grew significantly in 6 months, and then the growth continued. This is hotel price freeze. We've grown 40 times since 2021. That's actually only 2 years when I think about it, but it was massive. And we iterated really fast. The 4 things that, Hopper relies on a lot, that we talked about, helped us get there. And then we also started doing something else. We learned to iterate fast and then take a breather, pause, and look at where we'd come and what needed to be cleaned up. So.
What needed to be cleaned up, like what I was saying a little bit earlier, going from experiment to feature. This is the pause where I would talk to Anwesha and say, okay, we're making money now. Do you remember all the technical debt I kept bugging you about? Now it's time to handle it because I'm not delivering another feature. And explain why. Like you're 20% toil on your team, on your team. Well, it's going to become 40% if we don't do this right now, and your revenues are going to drop, and you're going to stop building new features because of this. And you can't tackle it all at the same time, but bring customer value and monetary value to that technical debt. And as engineering managers, you really have to become good at this. I always say to Anwesha, I should write a whole talk on just how you sell technical debt to business.
It's true. But overall, this was our story. This product's still around. It's growing. And our team made it happen in 6 months.
And if you want to hear more, we have a table right out there. We still have a lot of t-shirts. You can come up and ask questions. And I think we still have time for questions.
Perfect. 5 minutes for questions. All right, let's hear it.